When three grown men publicly humiliated a struggling mother at a neighborhood grocery store, no one dared speak up, until one quiet, determined soul decided silence wasn't an option. Traven Miles, an MMA fighter known more for his calm intensity than his flashy persona, had spent the past 5 days grinding through relentless sparring sessions and media pressures. With UFC scouts circling and his coach constantly warning him that one misstep could send him back to regional cards, Traven preferred to stay under the radar. That afternoon, he drove to a modest Savmore on Fremont Street in Stockton, California. Not for a full meal or to catch up with friends, but simply to grab a quick bite. Eggs, oatmeal, almond milk, and a couple of muscle recovery drinks. He wasn't even expecting any conversation, so he kept his hoodie pulled low over his eyes and his earbuds in, more as a shield than for music. The store was nearly empty. A few teenagers bickering over frozen pizza, a scattering of older customers eyeing produce, and a distant wail from a baby. Traven moved like a shadow along the periphery, his mind still on training and the pressure of his upcoming bouts. It wasn't until he neared the self-checkout area that a sound caught his attention, a tone of sarcasm and cruelty that cut through the store's subdued hum. There, at the checkout counter, a young mother in her mid to late 20s was struggling to scan a pack of diapers and a box of cereal. Her simple gray hoodie, marred by a bleach stain on the sleeve, and her unassuming ponytail framed a face etched with exhaustion, clutching a toddler. Wide-eyed with his head resting against her shoulder, she fumbled with her wallet. Behind her, 3 men loomed. One, with a thick buzz cut and clad in cargo shorts, hoisted a can of beans into his cart as if it were a trophy, jesting loudly. "Hey, lady, think they'll give me extra stamps if I wink at the cashier?" Another joined in mockingly. "Come on, give her a break, bro. She's just teaching her kid how to hustle." Their laughter rang out over the soft beep of the register, their tone belittling as they ridiculed her efforts. The cashier's eyes darted nervously between the men and the mother, but she remained silent, seemingly resigned to the cruelty unfolding before her. Traven stopped dead in his tracks near the frozen food aisle, just past the energy drinks. He turned his head slightly, straining to catch every word, every sneer. The mother did not shout back. She didn't raise her voice or fight back. Instead, she kept her head down, whispering softly to her son, perhaps urging him to remain calm, as she fumbled through her wallet with trembling hands. Raised by a woman who had long endured similar indignities without protest, Traven's heart clenched at the sight. He remembered the quiet strength of his own mother, who had swallowed her pride day after day just to keep their family afloat. Now, watching this woman, whose name he would soon learn was Alyssa, he felt the weight of her silent suffering. For a long moment he stood there, caught between the urge to grab what he had come for and the impulse to step in and speak out. Then the sound of one of the men, another cruel, mocking noise, this time a loud, exaggerated kissing sound directed at the mother, was the last straw. Traven's voice, calm but firm, cut through the ambient tension. Calm. Control. 2 simple words that made the men pause and turn in his direction, surprised to see someone, perhaps an older man or a quiet shopper, challenging them. They weren't expecting this defiance. "Hey, you talking to us?" the cargo shorts man barked. Traven's response was measured. "Let her pay in peace." The mother looked up, startled for the first time. Her eyes, brimming with both fear and uncertainty, searched the silence for a sign, whether to remain invisible or to stand and fight back. The man with the buzz cut sneered. "Mind your business, bro." Taking a deliberate step forward, Traven's tone remained unyielding. "My business is watching 3 grown men act like bullies around a mom trying to buy food for her kid. This isn't okay." For a heartbeat, the store fell silent. Shoppers stopped mid-scan, and even the teenagers by the candy aisle paused their argument. A few pulled out their phones, uncertain if they should record this confrontation. The man in cargo shorts, his pride wounded by the unexpected challenge, puffed his chest and stepped up. "Look, man, I don't know who you think you are, but nobody's scared of a guy in a hoodie." Traven met his challenge with unflinching eyes. "I'm not here to scare you. he said quietly. "I'm here to stop you from hurting her." For a tense moment, no one moved. Then, as if the pressure of eyes on them made them aware of the absurdity of their cruelty, the two remaining men backed off and grabbed their friend's shoulders, murmuring curses as they began to retreat. Phones continued to record, and whispered commentary spread like wildfire among the few who remained. Alyssa, the mother, still stood near the checkout with her son clinging to her, eyes wide and uncertain. Travin approached her slowly, softening his tone as he said, "You okay?" Her eyes, glistening with unshed tears, offered a timid nod. I'm fine," she whispered. "Just finish paying and get home safe," Travin added, his voice gentle yet resolute. At that moment, an older woman nearby gasped softly, not at his intervention, but at the words he spoke as he began to help pick up the scattered items from the fallen cereal box. "You don't owe anyone an explanation for surviving," he said quietly, almost as a benediction to the mother. Alyssa's eyes widened as she absorbed his words, the simple truth resonating deeply with her. A few shoppers began clapping softly as the scene unfolded, their approval echoing through the aisle. But Travin raised his hand to signal that this was no performance for applause. "Can someone help her to the car?" he requested calmly. A tall woman in scrubs immediately stepped forward, offering to assist Alyssa and her son. In the ensuing minutes, as the store's manager hurriedly called security and the first reports began to trickle in, Travin remained the calm center of the storm. A stocky police officer soon approached, recognizing him from his fights on TV. "You're the one who stopped the fight," the officer said, surprised by Travin's composed demeanor. "You hurt no one, did you?" Travin shook his head slowly. "I just stopped it before it got any worse," he replied, his voice steady. Later, as the incident spread online and local news picked up the story, Travin found himself in the midst of unexpected attention. Headlines flashed across social media, quotes from the confrontation, particularly his measured words. "You don't owe anyone an explanation for surviving." Though offers for interviews and podcasts poured in, Travin remained silent on the subject, returning instead to his routine at the gym. His life continued with early morning workouts and long runs through Stockton, though the memory of what had happened weighed on him in quiet moments. That same evening, Travin sat alone in his car, engine off, reflecting on the day's events. A call from his coach, Coach Briggs, broke the silence. "You did good, Trey. Not everyone would have stepped in like that," his coach said, pride evident in his voice. Travin simply replied, "I did what needed to be done." It wasn't about accolades or media attention. It was about standing up when someone was vulnerable. A week later, the incident had become a touchstone for those who felt overlooked and demeaned. Alyssa, after spending a sleepless night rewatching the footage, began to write. She composed a heartfelt post about the daily struggles of being judged for needing help, about the shame of having to use a benefits card in public, and about the courage of a man who quietly defended her dignity without expecting anything in return. Her words, raw and sincere, resonated with countless people across social media, shifting the narrative from one of violent confrontation to one of quiet heroism. For Travin, the true impact of that day wasn't measured in social media likes or viral headlines. It was in the genuine gratitude in Alyssa's tearful thanks, and in the change he saw in the people who had witnessed his intervention. Later that week, while dropping off donated gear at a local community center, he encountered Alyssa once again. Standing by the playroom, she offered him a tentative smile and said, "Thank you for reminding people what it means to care." Travin's reply was soft. "Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is simply stand up and be there for someone." In that quiet exchange, away from the glare of cameras and the buzz of online fame, Travin understood that real strength isn't about fighting for glory. It's about knowing when to use that strength to protect someone in need. And for Alyssa, it was a reminder that she deserved to be treated with respect, without having to explain her very existence. As the day faded into memory and life resumed its usual rhythm, the legacy of that small act of courage lingered on, a quiet testament to the power of compassion and the importance of standing up for others, even when no one else will.